Hi there, my name's Jane Anderson and this is the Jane Anderson Brand You Show. It's the podcast for experts who want to have greater impact, influence and income for their businesses and careers. As experts, we know that people buy from people and work with people who they know, who they like and who they trust. So I'm so glad you're here because it's that time again now to really amplify how you show up in the world. So I want to welcome today our very special guest. She is an expert in user experience, data analytics. She is a strategist and she is the author of How to Build a Digital Revolution. It's personal. So she works at the intersection of business and technology. So she's had an incredibly deep experience in user research and public policy evaluation. And she works with really forward-thinking public and private sector organisations and also the individuals within them. And she is on her mission to create digital evolutions so that businesses perform far more efficiently, far more effectively, and are far more humanised. Emily's clients includes departments like Department of Communities, Child Safety and Disability Services, Queensland Department of Premier and Cabinet blue chip communication organisations, blue chip communication and parity consulting. And because of this pace of our digitally transforming world, Emily is really one of those people who is a voice of reason. So she runs workshops to help her clients deliver innovative services to citizens and corporate stakeholders and making sure the productivity still works as well. So she really challenges her clients to meaningfully reach out to people in more people in ways that engage them. So she's an in-demand speaker. Her keynotes and workshops blend real-world insight with contemporary research on user experience, open data, and the dangers of implementing technology in a strategy vacuum. And so welcome today, the amazing Emily Verstege.
Thanks. Cue applause.
Yeah,
thank you.
We've got the crowd here in the background. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today and the Brand You Show. You have just got so much depth to you, and I'm so excited to have you on the show today.
Thank you. It's nice to hear you say depth because until recently I thought it was a bit kind of manic and a bit. Right. I would always like to have been able to say to people, yep, I'm a nurse. Wouldn't that be easy?
Yeah. And it's not, sometimes we don't always give ourselves the credit too, because you've been doing something for such a long time. It just is such a core part of who you are and your identity that it's not till you consciously realise, oh yeah, I do know a bit of stuff. Yeah. And then you're starting to articulate it that you realise, wow, yeah. The depth is there.
It could be depth, yeah.
It could be. So, Emily, I'd love for you to tell us a bit about the type of business that you have, and I talked a little bit about the people you help, but I'd love to know a bit more from you, how you help them, and what do you do, and the type of people you help and how do you help them?
Sure. Well, I think at my core, I'm a strategist.
Strategist.
I'm all about efficiency. I've just combined two words, strategist and an analyst.
Right.
And I'm working with, as you said in your intro, I'm working with forward-thinking businesses to help transform the business, like to shift it from analog to digital. Right. And I'm really passionate about making sure that transformation happens in a meaningful and intelligent way, because we know that you use the one of my favourite phrases, the strategy vacuum, and I think that's one of the biggest issues that I'm facing at the moment with my clients, or at least that they're facing and I'm working with them on, is, because, as you said, digital does move so fast. I think there's this real kind of pressure for businesses to be going, oh my God, we'll just buy this.
Yeah.
And whack it onto our business and then we'll be digitally transformed and we'll be sweet. And I think, technology happens fast, but transformation doesn't.
Yeah.
And in many ways, that's a bit of that's a bit of a bugger, because I think, you know, there can be a tendency to go, well, yeah, we'll just do this fast and, like I said, get our digital problems solved. And my message is that it actually takes obsessive focus on three things. It takes obsessive focus on truth, touch, and tools. And the truth part is it takes focus on strategy. So you have to know where you're going in order to be able to get there. And so I work with businesses and organisations to be able to say, what is your actual strategy? You know, what do you want your business to look like in 5 years? What goals do you want to be kicking in 5 years? And then from that, let's work backwards and go, what's your business going to need to look like in order to be kicking those goals? And then, and only then, okay, so maybe technology, how could we use technology in a way that will help you become more efficient or more engaging or more relevant to help you kick those goals? So that's the truth aspect. And then there's also the touch aspect, which is people, and that's people inside organisations and people outside. So users, consumers, customers, clients, whatever you want to call them, are the people who are driving this digital transformation. Because, you know, you and I, you know, in our personal lives, like, right, for example, this morning I bought a pair of boots from the Iconic, and this while I was waiting for my friend to join me to go for a run. And, you know, that website is amazing because it's so fast and it's available, and my boots will be here tomorrow, and if they're crappy, I'll send them back and it won't cost me anything. And so that's the level of service that users expect. Like, I think the statistic is that if a website doesn't load within 2 to 4 seconds, then people just are bumped off it. And So I come at the touch aspect from what users expect, and working with organisations to build deeply engaging user experiences that are connected.
Right.
I like to say that they're fast, frictionless, fearless, and so that's the external touch element, but there's also the internal touch element as well. So how do you empower your people within your organisation to actually work in this really fast-paced world, which is challenging? And, you know, some people love to be challenged and other people don't. So digital transformation is actually organisational change, as far as I'm concerned, on the internal perspective. And then there's the tools element as well. And that's, like you said before in your intro, I like to call myself a little bit of a voice of reason, because I hope that I impart on my clients this very real understanding that technology is just a tool, data is just a tool, and it's, you know, it's only humans and maybe a few robots who actually know how to use these tools to affect, you know, the efficiency, the growth, the relevance piece. Right. So yeah, broadly, it's truth, touch, and tools that I work with people, organisations on, and in a various number of ways. You know, I run workshops and I do speaking, etc.
And that makes just so much sense. Like, you know, for someone, you know, if they're not necessarily in that whole digital world, and it just, you know, because you work with really big pieces of work, like that affect a lot of people. Yeah. And when you break it down to those three areas, the tools, the touch, and the truth, yeah, that just makes so much sense to me, and that just makes it so much easier to understand. So you've made the move yourself, and a bit of starting to go through your own transformation, and you know, that's kind of the nice thing. We get to go a little bit under the hood with people's businesses on the show. So you've had your business as in dremilyverstage.com, which has been a more recent setup, but you've come from another business, yeah?
Yeah, I've come from a couple of businesses actually. So my journey to where I am now kind of started in research academia, and then it went via the private sector to my own business. Right. So I've worked for other people and I've worked for myself, but even most recently when I've worked for myself, the two most recent instances of working for myself, I've been hidden underneath a brand. And it's only since kind of starting this kind of journey towards thought leadership practice that I have been brave enough. Let's face it, that's what it is, brave enough to put myself forward as Dr. Emily Verstege. And even, you know, and the decision to do that was finally starting to understand this positioning piece, and also starting to understand, as you said, the depth that I do have and the experience that I bring. And yeah, so it's been a bit of an evolution.
And it's interesting, particularly, I think, from not just a branding perspective, but coming out of academia, because I do a little bit of work with academia and research institutes and things like that. And for those who have, got doctor as part of their branding, if they're not necessarily in corporate sector, there's I think when I'm talking to them, sometimes they feel like I have to go and be the Dr. Carls of the world and, be all over the media to really make that commercial shift. It's not necessarily the case. Do you find that sometimes when you're talking to people, if you've got a bit more connection perhaps with academia, do you find that at all?
I guess I do and I don't. I mean, I think the doctor is kind of an automatic positioning piece, just by virtue of what it is, because it's not something that everybody is or does.
No.
And the way that it's viewed, I think, is very different in the corporate sector and in the in the research academia kind of sector. I mean, one of the things that I've really kind of learnt now, having my own business that's branded as me, is that you have to be a bit of a rock star, and you have to be comfortable, and again, it's something you have to work towards, and something that I'm sure you are still working on it, and I know that very definitely I am working on, is being comfortable with getting your Mick Jagger swagger on and being up there in the spotlight. That's not something that kind of comes overnight. And I remember when I was I'd started my postdoc, and I was going with some of my colleagues to an international conference, and somebody said to me at the start of the day, who are you going to, what are you going to go and see today? And I said, I'm going to go and see Dr. X, whoever it was. And this person was, their reaction just kind of shocked me. And they said, oh God, he's all hot air. And I was like, well, no, because he leads a really big, cooperative research centre, and he's got a ridiculous number of, publications in science and nature. So clearly, he's got a bit of substance to him. And the more I thought, like, I still went to the presentation, but I felt quite deflated. And I think that reaction, as I analysed it more, is in my opinion, can be quite common within research academia, and it's almost like the people who are up there on the stage and who have this gift of being eloquent and elegant and engaging when they're talking about their scientific research. Of course, they're going to attract media attention, because I would much rather listen to someone who can tell me a story than someone who's talking to me about statistics I don't understand. And even if the person on the stage is talking to me about statistics, I'm going to want to listen, because they can do it in a way that engages me.
Yes.
And so I think that there is almost, at least in my history, there was that real kind of bitterness and almost like, people were disparaging about rock stars because they had no substance. And for me, that was a real kind of, limiting belief that I had to move past in order to be able to use myname.com and to add the doctor bit in there. So if I'm going to stand up and talk about myself, then I actually, it doesn't mean that I don't have any substance.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think too, even now, like on the podcast, this is a very verbal thing, but if, for those who are listening, you have got to go to Emily's new website. It's by the time this goes to broadcast, it will be up. And, but if you have a look at Emily and her, all her visuals and just how she is in person, Emily is, I go, oh, she's such a rock star. Like I look at, and it's having that conviction, but also, so, it's still the authenticity, and it's not you saying, I'm so good. It's still having enough conviction that you go, I'm okay. I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But I can make it engaging for you, and I can make it, in a way that you'll understand it.
Yeah, totally.
So what have been the benefits that you've noticed so far with having moved over to yourname.com?
People know me.
Yeah.
And, one of the big struggles that one of the big struggles that I've had has been, so for the past 10 years, before I started my own business, I've been doing that for the last kind of couple of years. The 10 years prior to that, I was working as a consultant for a medium-sized consulting firm based in New South Wales.
Right.
And all my clients there were the businesses clients. And I suddenly realised when I went out on my own and I was putting myself forward, on a tender panel, and they were asking for referees, and I went, oh, crap. I don't actually have people who can vouch for my work. I have people who can vouch for work that I did while I was branded under somebody else's brand. And I realised that I hadn't lost that experience, that, of course not. The 10 years worth of experience I hadn't been taken from me. But my positioning, I was starting from ground zero because I didn't have that brand behind me.
Right.
And so the past couple of years has really been about stepping into my own, rock stardom.
Yes.
And putting myself forward. And people are starting to know me. It's not like they're asking me for autographs on the street, but, that'll come.
It will.
But yeah, people know me, or they say I've read something that you've written, or, I'm recognisable.
And so what does that actually mean? Because I guess for me what I found is when you're recognised, or you walk in a room, or you attend a meeting, I find that the conversation moves a bit quicker, and I'm able to sort of get them to where they need to be. But has that been something that you've noticed as a result of that shift over to your personal brand when you attend events or meetings or whatever it might be? Yeah,
it's starting to be. And one of the things that I really notice is that people already know a little bit about what I stand for. They know about how I work. They know what I think on a range of topics, because for me, one of my big lead generation tools is, you'd be unsurprised, Jane, it's LinkedIn. And so people have already gone, I checked out your profile on LinkedIn, and I know that you did this. Like, for instance, yesterday I got engaged to be the MC of a conference up here in Queensland. Mm-hmm. And the woman came to me and she said, oh, look, you're going to be perfect because you're blah, 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 and blah. I went, geez, how did you know that about me? And she said, well, I just went to your LinkedIn profile, of course. Yeah. And I think, someone you and I both know, Jane, Dermot Crowley, I remember him talking about when he wrote his first book. He said, all of a sudden I'm walking into meetings and people have got my book and it's highlighted and there's sticky notes. And, I basically, I have one conversation instead of 10 conversations to get people across the line, or, it takes me 10 minutes instead of 10 hours to get people across the line, because they already know what I stand for, and they know that connects with them and they want a bit of that. So I'm not there yet. But that traction is definitely starting to happen.
Yeah, fantastic. So were there any other particular challenges that you've faced making that shift over?
I really think that most of that is believing. It sounds so fluffy, but believing that it was okay for me to be me.
Yes.
And I mean, there's a lot of security and safety that kind of comes from being attached to a brand. And, you kind of look, as multiplicity. I'm like, well, I look like a business, don't I?
Yeah.
If someone makes a mistake, well, it was multiplicity. It wasn't me who made the mistake. So I think it's, it's a legitimate fear, because I think, it's not... If you make, like I said, if you make a mistake, or if you kind of misrepresent yourself, it's not a brand that can be kind of shelved and moved on to something else. It's you. It is the very essence of you that is being judged, and quite rightly so. So yeah.
And I think one of the things that I love about you is just your realness. So when I look at what you do, which I go, that's just such a whole big world. I have no idea how that world works. But what I love about you is that you've got this beautiful humour about you, this self-deprecating, funny warmth. Combine that with rock star. And to me, when I go, if I look at digital transformation and I look at who talks about digital transformation and who has the expertise in that, I go, yeah, I reckon I'd want to hear Emily's version of that because Emily will make it really interesting. I love who she is. She'll make it funny. She'll help me understand it in a way that's in through the lens that Emily sees the world, and the way that you make it different. And in terms of, like, your personality is a really big part of who you are, particularly because it comes through in your writing. Is that something you also just had to, because you're not behind that brand, a different brand, now it's Emily. Yeah. Was that something that you kind of had to get kind of used to, was just getting used to you in a way?
Yeah, absolutely. And it took me a really long time to actually start blogging. I can remember one of my mentors, Janine Garner, saying to me, just write something. And I was like, no, I don't feel like, everything I write just feels, it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel authentic. It doesn't feel like me. And I think that's because, and I shared one of my original kind of blog posts with Janine, and she came back, she's going, this is not like an essay, I'm not going to go and check your references, Emily, just step back a little bit. And she was right. And I think my automatic tendency is to research the crap out of something. When I'm uncertain, I'm like, I'll just do a bit more research. She kind of really shunted me forward with those comments. But I think, just finding that authentic style came with that. As I keep saying, it's all, this entire transition for me, this positioning journey has been an evolution, and the more I got clear on what it was that I was passionate about, and the more I got clear on what it was that I wanted to do, and then and only then did the authenticity, I think, kind of come out in everything that I do.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just so inspiring to watch. I think, and I think you're an inspiration too, particularly for people. I think because of the work I do with academia, is that here's what this can look like if you're making that transition too. That you get to be your fully self-expressed, but you're not dumbing down your work. Yeah. You're bringing it to life in a way that's relevant for your clients to understand it. Yeah.
And that's a real area of passion of mine, is mentoring with women and men who are in that science, technology, engineering and maths kind of disciplines, health, and who are either contemplating moving from academia into corporate or working for themselves. And also, or sometimes even people who are contemplating staying where they are, to identify their skills and how they can position themselves, if they stay in academia, or equally to identify their skills as research academics and how the currency of those skills beyond research academia. And I think that's a really kind of interesting space. I love that, because for me that journey, I've talked about it quite flippantly, but it was it hurt a lot to kind of make that journey out of research and into the private sector. So it's another area of passion.
Wow. So just on that then, if someone was considering doing that and building their business under their name.com, what advice would you have for them?
I think do it soon.
Yes.
I look back and think, gee, I wish I had done it sooner. Right. I guess the flip side of that is you have to be ready for it. But so do the work on working out what you stand for and what it is that you want to do, because as soon as you do that, then the authenticity piece comes, and then you start going, you know what, I don't give a rat's, I'm just going to do it anyway.
And I think that's great advice, and it's wonderful to hear it from you who has made that jump. So it's very courageous and a very brave and bold thing to do. But the work that you've done through academia has a huge impact on the planet, and now you get to make that ripple out there. So tell us, what are your plans for the next 12 to 18 months?
Well, I'm pretty excited. There's lots of things on the boil. But I'm about to release a new product in the next quarter called Unlocked.
Right.
And that's for people who are kind of drowning, not waving with the amount of data that they've got. I mean, in my conversations with people, as I've been talking about digital transformation, I realise that just by breathing in this world, right, we create data. I think it's 5 exabytes of data that's generated every day.
Really?
Which is 1 billion bytes if you're not down with your byte hierarchies. It's basically a shed load of data. And what I'm finding and what the people I'm working with are finding is that actually much of that data is meaningless, or it's inaccessible, or it's incomplete. And that's a real shame and a loss to the organisation, because that's value that's locked up, and value that you're not being able to extract within your organisation. So this product is perfect for people who feel like they should be able to answer questions that their board's asking but can't, or they feel like they get a really good sense of what their clients want, but they haven't got the data to back it up.
Right.
This product is about helping people map the existing data, or perhaps the data gaps, identifying issues with data and a plan to move forward and remedy that, so that they can, support their business's overall strategic direction through clean, lovely data.
Lovely data.
My PhD supervisor used to say to me, Emily, happiness is a big, clean data set. He was right about a lot of things, but yeah.
And so if people want to work with you on that or find out more about you, and you've got your book coming out shortly, you're just on fire, and you've got so much stuff coming. If people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
LinkedIn, Dr. Emily Verstege, and also, as you said, by the time this podcast goes live, we'll have to make sure we release an advanced version of this to my website design crew. But by the time this podcast goes live, I will have a website branded as dremilyverstege.com.
Great. And we spell your surname Verstege, yes?
Yeah, you do.
Yep, awesome. Okay, well, thank you so much for being on the show. It's been such a pleasure to have you. So gracious of you to allow us to kind of go under the hood a bit and understand a little bit about the transition that you've made. There's lots of people out there who want to make that move, and there's a lot of fear and accountability that comes with all that, and mortgages and all those things. Got kids in certain schools.
Got one of them.
So it's been wonderful to have you, because your perspective is unique, and there are people out there who are you certainly have created inspiration for people who are listening, going, well, if she can do that, I can do that. Yeah. So thank you so much for your time, and we might have you back and hear about the adventures that you've got happening in the future.
Yeah, totally.
All right. Thanks, Emily.
Thanks, Jane.